ocean's fauna. Scientists have yet to discover the rest of the unknown species, although they're unlikely to have the time to do this. Indeed, sometime in the next 100 years, there may be no more living organisms remaining in the oceans. Why is this going to happen? What will happen to our oceans in 50 or 100 years, and how will it affect humanity? Over the past few years, alarm signals have begun to come from all over the planet. In 2014, scientists found that in the Pacific Ocean, on the coast of North America, the number of sea lions has dramatically increased. At first glance, this may seem like good news. Since the number of animals has increased, this must mean that the conditions in the ocean have become more favorable for life. However, in reality, things are quite different. To find out what was going on, a group of researchers led by Karina Acevedo Whitehouse of the Autonomous University of Querétaro, Mexico, and the Center for Marine Mammals, Sausalito, California, decided to study the offspring of sea lions in 2014 and compare them with pups from other, more favorable periods. As it turned out, the pups born in 2014 were in terrible physical shape. Their blood glucose was catastrophically low. Simply put, the pups were emaciated. The reason is that the female sea lions could not find enough prey to feed their pups. Due to the disappearance of fish for a wide distance, the sea lions used up a lot of energy trying to find food and were really exhausted. Such changes were the result of an event that occurred in the winter of 2013. At that time, near the shores of Alaska, researchers recorded a section of water with a higher than normal temperature for the winter period, about 2 to 5 degrees Celsius, or about 3.6 to 9 degrees Fahrenheit above the average historical level. A bubble of warm water had formed in the ocean, which later expanded and reached the California coast in 2014, and then later made its way to Mexico. The temperature inside this bubble was on average 6 degrees Celsius or 10.8 degrees Fahrenheit above normal. Water of such a high temperature caused the flowering of toxic microalgae, which led to the poisoning of the ocean, the death of plankton and other ocean creatures. Therefore, the sea lions simply migrated ashore to save themselves, but many eventually died of starvation. Scientists called this mysterious bubble of warm water a drop or blob. It remained until 2016, but it was nothing more than a heat wave. Scientists are increasingly observing similar thermal waves in the oceans that cause similar negative consequences, as in the case described here. Although the researchers believe that this was a temporary phenomenon, in 2019, a new heat wave swept across the Pacific Ocean and forced fish to move closer to shore. Due to warming, crabs and mollusks began to die in large numbers, and these animals are important links in the food chain. Therefore, their extinction can create a chain reaction, leading to massive reductions in the numbers of other species. Changes in temperature have also contributed to the death of a large number of living creatures in the Atlantic Ocean. The increased temperature contributed to the flowering of sargassum, a kind of seaweed which has occupied nearly the whole strip of the Atlantic Ocean from the coast of West Africa to the Gulf of Mexico. The total length of such an algae belt is approximately 8,850 kilometers or 5,500 miles, and the mass is about 20 million tons. For many animals, sargassum can be a source of food and even shelter, but in this case, there's just too much algae. Such a large amount of algae prevents marine species from moving and breathing. Rotted clusters of sargassum sink to the bottom and lead to the death of coral reefs, and also become food for bacteria that absorb oxygen from the ocean. As a result, entire regions of oxygen-depleted water unsuitable for life are formed. On the other side of the planet, in the Indian Ocean, the water temperature also rose 1.2 degrees Celsius or 2.16 Fahrenheit. This has led to a reduction in phytoplankton of approximately 20%. Phytoplankton is the main source of food for most animals in the Indian Ocean and the most basic link in the food chain. In addition, it produces oxygen, so its reduction will also lead to the fact that all living things begin to be starved of oxygen. I'd like to believe that at least the Arctic Ocean, the coldest body of water on the planet, could be a refuge for those who manage to survive. But, unfortunately, even this part of our world ocean is doomed. The water under the ice of the Arctic Ocean is home to a large number of living organisms. This is especially true of plankton, on which the very foundation of life is built. Ice itself is a hunting ground for polar bears and seals. However, due to the fact that the temperature here rose on average by 2 to 4 degrees Celsius, or 3.6 to 7.2 Fahrenheit, about 2 million square kilometers of ice, that's about 772,000 square miles, has been lost over the past 40 years, which has led to a reduction in the number of living organisms. But the worst thing is that it appears the trend of increasing water temperature in the oceans will continue. If the ocean warms up another 1 to 2 degrees Celsius, about 1.8 to 3.6 Fahrenheit, coral reefs will begin to disappear. Even if we now miraculously stop the warming of the ocean, the process of the coral reefs becoming extinct has already begun. Estimates are that by 2050, 90% of the reefs will die. As a result, algae that lived in corals and produced oxygen will begin to die out as well, and 1/4 of all fish species will lose their habitat, which will likely lead to the extinction of all other living creatures. It's worth noting that the root of all these problems lies outside the ocean. Over the past 100 years, scientists have recorded a pattern of increase in the average temperature of the oceans, along with an increase in carbon dioxide in its waters. One of the reasons for the huge amount of carbon dioxide in the ocean is the massive death of coral reefs and algae. However, this is still not enough to lead to global change. The most significant amount of carbon dioxide enters the ocean from land and air. The excess carbon dioxide in the Earth's atmosphere is the result of our use of fossil fuels. Roughly speaking, the more humanity produces material wealth for itself, the more it enriches the atmosphere with carbon dioxide and increases the greenhouse effect. And the world's oceans, meanwhile, provide mankind with an important function. About 25% of carbon dioxide emitted by factories, transportation, and other pollutants dissolves in its waters. In addition, about 90% of the excess heat that carbon dioxide releases into the atmosphere is also absorbed by the ocean. This reduces the global temperature in the atmosphere, but at the same time, significantly warms the ocean. In addition, a high content of carbon dioxide oxidizes water. These two factors lead to the destruction of entire ecosystems, which in turn causes even further emission of carbon dioxide. At some point, the ocean will heat up and oxidize to a level where it will become quite difficult for the ocean to dissolve carbon dioxide, which will lead to an increase in the level of carbon dioxide in the atmosphere. And this, in turn, can result in a fatal end for all of us. The fact is that today, 50% of the oxygen produced enters the atmosphere from the oceans. Therefore, when all life in all 4 oceans perishes, the air on Earth will also become unsuitable for life over time. As a result, humanity will die out, unless, of course, it moves to another planet. Also, large-scale plastic pollution is contributing to the damaging of our oceans. An entire island was even formed from plastic in the Pacific Ocean between the coast of North America and Japan. Its dimensions are amazing because the plastic island is more than 3 times larger than the land area of France. The total mass of all this debris in the oceans reaches about 79,000 tons. But the worst thing is that by 2050, its size will triple. Plastic slowly decomposing under the sun is very toxic to most marine creatures. So the destruction of life in the ocean, along with global warming, seems set to only accelerate. While there's still a little time, we must find a way to prevent a planetary catastrophe. Researchers have several options for combating climate change in their arsenal, but I'll cover how safe they are and whether it's worth fighting at all in one of the next episodes. Write in the comments with #StopGlobalWarming if you're concerned about this issue. If you like my video, be sure to click the like button, subscribe to the channel,